My name is Thalen Mordric, Mage Guild Sigil E7243 Kale. I am recording this as a record in case something happens to me. At the time of this recording, I have been unable to contact any of my brethren. All of my mind-cast spells yield no results. I have never seen anything like this before. I have not been able to produce any spells except a recording spell, using a soul crystal I had been investigating in a null chamber when this whole event started. 3 days ago, Master Muo returned from a journey with a small chest of items for our storage. He had asked me to investigate the chest, which was recovered from a pilgrimage to a distant site. I'm not familiar with the group that gifted it to us. Our job is to investigate these items for any malicious intent, so he offered them this service. The protocol for enchanted items is a 3-day process. You lock them, and a trained investigator, which in this case was me, in a null chamber for 3 days to ensure nothing escapes. A null chamber is a thick, magically sealed room where all magic is nullified by fey sigils for safety. A small central table has small pockets of reactivity created by a resonance. I took the chest into the room along with a lattice examiner, which is a necklace, a harmonic rod, a resonance bowl, and an intent dial. Standard equipment for the task. The only items permitted in the chamber were my rations and several copies of various taxonomy texts. We follow strict protocol when dealing with these sorts of things. Muo sealed the chamber on day 1 for 3 days, and I set to work immediately investigating the items. The chest was old, but not of the Fey court. You can't find Fey items anyway unless you've made a deal with them. But I investigated the possibility. There were no symbols revealing that they had created any of the items either. They were also all inert. None were enchanted. I found an emerald crystal inside for soul binding, but there was no soul attached. No enchantments. I ran a series of tests using the resonance bowl, but it revealed nothing. Protocol suggests using the resonance bowl and an intent dial every hour for 4 hours, and I did. Nothing. There were only 2 other items in the chest, a black robe and a dagger. I studied the dagger the longest. I checked metal composition for any evidence of resonance. The resonance bowl revealed nothing. There wasn't any writing on it either. The robe was made of fine silk, but it was also man-made. I ate a small meal of dried meat and vegetable soup and went to bed. I figured it was going to be a long 3 days in the null chamber with nothing to investigate. The silence in there is absolute, you see. No hum, no wind, no heartbeat in your ears, just pressure. It presses on you until you feel like you're the only person left in the world. I actually welcomed the sleep. This is when things turned strange. It was late in the evening of the final day in the null chamber when this event occurred. A curious sort of thing. I was reading The Luminous Collegium of Auralith. There wasn't anything else to do. In a null chamber, you can't hear anything due to the pressure, and the silence can drive you crazy. So I busied my mind by rereading the text. I was halfway through a chapter on theoretical manifestations when the candle flame beside me just flattened. It went from a flicker to a perfect horizontal line, like someone had pressed it flat against the air. I remember staring at it, thinking my eyes were playing tricks. Then the shaking started. Suddenly, the whole chamber began to shake so violently, I felt as though the entire castle was falling down the hill. The table in the room unbolted from the floor, and myself and every other item flew head over boot, slammed into the ceiling and walls several times. It was awful and violent. At one point, I was spiraling in midair so fast I vomited. I remember spinning, seeing my books flapping like wounded birds, the resonance bowls spinning past my face, and then blacked out. I'm not sure how long I was out for, but when I woke up, the null chamber door had cracked open. Null chamber doors are sealed by placing a thick stone tightly between a sigil line edge in the wall. The stone is 5 feet thick and weighs too much for a person to lift, let alone crack. But there it was, split right down the middle. A cold draft was pushing through, and I could hear something I hadn't heard in 3 days. Wind. I knew something terrible had happened. I lifted myself off the floor. My head was bleeding, but upon inspection, I found it was just a cut. I managed to crawl out through the large crack in the chamber wall, but it was tight. I pushed my pack out first with the items I had been investigating. I had to crawl on my belly to get out. The stone scraped my ribs. The hall outside was dark, which is strange in the keep. I could see my breath, which meant there also wasn't any fire in the left wing. I saw from the window we were still on the mountain, so luckily there hadn't been a collapse. But for the life of Hob, I couldn't figure out what was going on. I called for Master Muo, Master Gurlim, Sio, Raifi. No answers, just echoes. My own voice bouncing back at me, which was somehow worse than the silence. I eventually started running through the castle frantically, calling their names. No answers. I found no one inside. The great hall still had mugs on the table with steam rising from them. A meal half-eaten. A fire in the hearth that had burned down to cold ash, but it should have been tended. It was as if everyone just stepped away for a moment. And never came back. There was nothing. No attack, no rubble, nothing. It was so peculiar. I checked the dormitories. Beds still made, but cold. The library, books open to pages no one will ever finish. The kitchens, a pot of stew still on the hook, untouched, but cold as stone. I stood there for a long time, just listening to nothing. The only area I haven't searched is the master's quarters, which are locked behind an enchanted door. No one is allowed in the master's quarters here on the eastern mountain. I dare not go there without good reason. But I keep looking at that door at the end of the hall. It's closed, just like always, but there's a light underneath it. A faint, pulsing light. It wasn't there before. I will wait here in my quarters, light some candles, and make my way there soon if I don't hear from them. I keep thinking about that flattened candle flame, about the silence before the shaking, about the steam still rising from those mugs. Whatever happened, it happened fast. And I think I was the only one inside the null chamber when it did. The only one protected, or the only one trapped. I don't know which yet.